exploit, exploit, exploit. Let's talk about the word exploit. The part of speech is a verb, which means it describes an action or a state of being. In common usage, to exploit something or someone usually means to take advantage of a situation, resource, or person in order to gain something for yourself, often at their expense. For example, you might see a company exploiting cheap labor in a developing country by paying workers very low wages. However, it's also important to note that exploit can have a more positive connotation when used in the context of discovering and utilizing new knowledge or resources, as in the phrase exploiting technological advancements. But overall, be careful with this word because its negative connotations are more common and strong. Here are 3 practical example sentences using the word exploit, along with their respective contexts. In a formal context, such as a university thesis or a professional journal article, you might use the sentence, "The researcher was able to exploit the limitations of current technology to develop a novel solution." Here, the word exploit means to make use of something to achieve a desired outcome, often in a clever or unexpected way. In this context, the tone is formal and objective, reflecting the academic or professional nature of the writing. In a casual conversation with a friend, you might say, "I'm going to exploit my sister's weakness for coffee by getting her to buy me a latte." Here, the word exploit means to take advantage of someone's weakness or tendency in order to achieve your own goal. The tone is light-hearted and humorous, reflecting the casual and conversational nature of the exchange. In a business context, such as a company meeting or a marketing plan, you might use the sentence, "We need to exploit the growing demand for eco-friendly products by launching a new line of sustainable packaging." Here, the word exploit means to take advantage of a trend or opportunity in order to increase sales or achieve a business goal. The tone is professional and strategic, reflecting the business nature of the discussion. So you want to know what exploit means? Well, basically, it refers to taking advantage of a situation or circumstance that's already in your favor, often for personal gain or benefit. It's like finding an opportunity and making the most of it, but not necessarily creating something new from scratch. For example, imagine you're really good at a particular sport, and your opponent gets hurt. That could be considered an exploit if you use their misfortune to win the game more easily. Similar concepts or synonyms for this idea are taking advantage, capitalizing on, or even making hay while the sun shines. When it's used in this way, it can sometimes have a bit of a negative connotation, implying that someone is benefiting unfairly from another person's misfortune. Fluctuate, fluctuate, fluctuate. So, let's talk about the word fluctuate. As a verb, it means to change in value or direction repeatedly, often within a short period of time, such as stock prices going up and down. In common usage, people say things like, "The temperature fluctuated between 20 to 25 degrees Celsius yesterday," or, "The company's profits have been fluctuating for the past few quarters." What's interesting about this word is that it implies a certain level of unpredictability. So when you use fluctuate, you're implying that something is changing rapidly and often in different directions. This can be useful to describe situations like weather patterns, economic trends, or even someone's mood. If you're discussing economic trends with your colleagues at the office, you might say, "The company's stock prices are expected to fluctuate in the coming weeks as a result." of changes in government policies. In this context, fluctuate is used in a business or academic setting to describe variations in financial data. On the other hand, during a casual conversation with a friend who loves sports, you might say, the weather forecast for the weekend's soccer game is supposed to fluctuate between sunny and rainy showers, so bring an umbrella just in case. Here, fluctuate is used informally to describe unpredictable changes in weather conditions. If you're writing a formal letter to a government official, you might write, "We respectfully request that our tax rates not be subject to arbitrary fluctuations, allowing us to better plan for the financial year ahead." In this context, fluctuate is used formally to describe predictable or planned variations in data, and is often used in professional or academic writing. So, you know how sometimes things can change in value or amount depending on certain conditions. Like maybe the price of something changes based on what's happening with the economy. Or the number of people at a party might go up and down as more guests arrive or leave. That's kind of like what happens when we talk about something changing in this way. It means that its value or amount isn't staying exactly the same all the time, but is instead going up and down as different things happen. This concept is really important to understand because it can help you make sense of lots of everyday situations, like how your favorite sports team might do better some weeks than others, or how many people might be interested in a new product. Guideline. 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 Let's talk about the word guideline. As a teacher, I'd like to start by telling you that it's a noun, which means we use it to identify people, places, things, and ideas. Now, in common usage, a guideline is a principle or rule that guides us in making decisions or taking actions. For example, if your school has a guideline for uniform policies, it means they've set some rules for what you're allowed to wear on campus. It's not just about following the rules. Guidelines also help us make better choices and avoid mistakes. One special note I'd like to add is that while guideline is often used interchangeably with rule, there's a subtle difference between the two. Guidelines are more flexible, allowing for some variation or interpretation, whereas rules are usually stricter and don't leave much room for choice. So, in summary, when you hear someone talk about a guideline, just remember that it's like a helpful map that shows you which direction to go in. I'd be happy to help you with some practical examples of using the word guideline. So, in a formal setting, such as a job interview or a meeting with a supervisor, you might use the phrase, "Can you please provide me with a clear guideline on how to approach this project?" For example, if you're new to a team and want to understand your responsibilities. On the other hand, in a casual conversation with friends while grabbing lunch, you might say something like, "I'm trying to get back into shape, but I need a daily routine as a guideline so I don't procrastinate." Here, using the word guideline helps emphasize that it's not a strict rule, but rather a general framework for achieving your goals. Finally, in a business or academic context, such as writing a research paper or creating a company policy manual, you might write, "Our team will follow these guidelines for conducting market research, identify key demographics, analyze consumer trends, and consult relevant data sources." Using the word guideline here helps convey that it's an established protocol to be followed. So, you're trying to learn what something is that helps us follow rules and best practices in our daily lives? It's actually quite simple. A helpful document that provides instructions on how to do things correctly and efficiently is what we're talking about. Its main characteristics are that it gives us clear steps and advice on how to handle a specific situation or task, like a recipe for making something or a plan for achieving a goal. This type of thing is often compared to others like rules, principles, or standards. Basically, it's a set of instructions that helps us do things right,